Laugh Factory Network.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Who am I? You sure you want to know?
What does that make us? Sidekicks?
It's the Trusty Sidekick podcast with your hosts, Jay Washington, Bob Hill.
What's happening, everybody? We are back. It is our best and worst comic book movies of 2017 on the Trusty Sidekick podcast here on the Laugh Factory Podcast Network with me, your resident supervillain, Mr. Jay Washington.
And me, your resident superhero, Bobby Hill.
I got that shit right this time.
Got it right this time. We had to pull a mulligan on this motherfucker.
had the mulligan recording. Let's just go back. Hey, man, thank you to everybody who's been joining us. As of right now, we are basically on our holiday break. We're celebrating Christmas. Some of you guys are celebrating Hanukkah, maybe celebrating Kwanzaa. Bobby and I just celebrating life.
Festivus. You always forget about Festivus, man. Don't Festivus shame people.
Shut your ass up.
I hope you got your poll.
What? Anyway, so what we're going to do, we're going to give you our best and worst of 2017. Now, this edition you're listening to now is going to be movies. Of course, there were only 6 movies based in the Marvel and DC live action, because there's an honorable mention that can come up, and I'll bring it up later. The next episode
He's going to pitch it, and I'm going to not be interested.
He's not going to be into it. The next
I'm sure
one,
I saw it.
Yeah, you did. The next one is going to be our best and worst comic book TV shows of 2017. That's going to be a longer one, ladies and gentlemen, because it's going to be a lot we're going to cover. And then our final one, you'll hear
14 TV shows.
14 TV.
For the record, so you understand, if you're listening to this right now, Jay Washington and myself keep up to date with, on a weekly basis, as the seasons go on and as the seasons are released, 14 television shows throughout a 52-week year.
And that is not including the movies we also have to keep up
There
with.
are also 6 movies that we have to watch, as well as trying to have successful stand-up comedy careers, acting careers,
just a little bit
family
of everything.
lives, the whole deal. And occasionally we sleep.
So, yeah. So we'll be covering those on the next episode. And in our final episode, you'll get the beginning of 2018. It is our predictions for 2018. Now, yes, we're going to get a heavy slate of movies coming in. We'll also have shows that will be coming back, new shows premiering, and we'll cover all that in that episode as well. But let's get into it. Let's do a little quick recap, man. How's everything been since we last caught up with you at episode 74?
It's good, man. I'm excited into the new year. If you're listening to this with the time this comes out, I will be in Chicago most likely when you're listening to this.
Okay.
It's a good time. I'm excited to go home, see some family, see the kid. And I'm excited to do that. So that's the big thing for me, is just getting a chance to get home. I've been home for a minute and trying to freeze my balls off for a little bit.
That brings you back to reality.
And then I'm driving back. So I'm driving back, and I'm either taking the Arizona route or I'm taking the Denver route. I haven't decided yet.
Man, listen.
Someone did remind me I can just get my weed out here. I don't have to stop.
Yeah,
in
you
Denver
don't.
for
By the time, you don't have to stop. Go the Arizona route.
I go the Arizona route and stay warm.
And we did that other way already. You don't want to do that shit again.
You just it was a fun ride.
It was fun, but that shit was horrible.
What about you, man? How have you been?
I've been good, man. Just a lot of, I stayed working until the holiday hit and got a little bit upset that the holiday arrived because I couldn't do as much as I wanted to do, but got myself together to get stuff for us, working on some new things with that. And just trying to, just keep myself sane throughout this holiday season.
Have you written your goals down for 2018?
No, I have not. And thank you for reminding. That was something I've been telling myself I was going to do. I'm going to do that probably later on after we get done recording, which is going to be a long-ass day. But I'm going to, make sure I have that done. And I got a lot of things I want to do personally, a lot of things I want us to do collectively, a lot of things just to move forward on every level, as a man, as a father, as a comedian, as an actor, as a host, and so on and so forth. So
as a cousin, as a brother,
man, I'm gonna fuck. That was just harsh.
As a point guard, as a
point guard, hey man,
as a D lineman, as a
man. Speaking as a black
as
man,
a big and tall model, as a
man. Listen, I'm gonna go to the men's warehouse in a few anyway. So I got to get this fitted for this 3-piece suit I got to wear.
I like how Jay just named off every interest that he had as a thing that he is.
Oh yeah, because I am going back. Oh yeah, that is true. I am
as a goatee proponent, as a male
wrestler.
Jewelry fan,
I'm supposed
professional
to go back in the ring in 2018, so I got some things on deck for that. So let's get into it, man. We had 6 movies.
6 movies
that came. What we're gonna do is we're gonna give our rankings of these movies.
Yes,
and and
worst to best, right?
Worst to best.
Okay.
And then we'll talk individually about each movie, what they did to us.
Okay,
So the 6 movies that we had were Thor Ragnarok.
These are in no particular order. Right, and then we're going to put them in particular order.
Thor Ragnarok.
And they're going to yell at each other about it.
Spider-Man Homecoming, Justice League, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and Logan.
Correct.
Okay. So, what is your number 6?
My number 6, it's the worst comic book movie of the year for me would have to be Justice League from DC.
We are on the same level with number 6.
We both have a number 6.
Now, for the record, if you're also listening to this, a lot of things I'm going to say are going to be for the record today. So I'm going to let you know now for the record again. Jay and I have not shared our list with each other.
No, we have not.
No idea. These are all a surprise as we go through them. We know we will probably be on the same page for some, and we will not be on the same page for some. So, yeah, Justice League was my worst movie of the year. That was
Justice League. You know what? It had so much potential.
And here's the thing: I still will say, not a terrible movie. I've seen worse comic book movies.
Movie.
Yeah. The problem is it didn't make the money.
No,
right?
not at all.
As of today, it's getting ready to go out of theaters. It'll make less than what Doctor Strange made
worldwide.
And Doctor Strange was a very ancillary character to the Marvel universe, to be honest with you.
And that's why it didn't generate as much money, because
Justice League is this combination of all these heroes, and the best they can do is a couple million under what Doctor Strange did the year before. So I thought it underwhelmed in the box office. I wish it would have done more, because it would have given them more reason to try and keep these guys all around each other. I did like a lot of the actors that were in them, but I don't think they're going to end up sticking around.
I think my biggest issue was the complete change of tone. I don't mind, because again, I didn't like Zack Snyder's tone initially anyway. So granted, with Joss Whedon, I knew what we were getting. But then you had so many plot holes that nobody knew Victor Stone's backstory.
Yeah, and he's a guy who really is a lot more entertaining of a character, but because it's such an early stage version of him, you have this real brooding guy. And it's really a bunch of characters who are brooding, and basically Wonder Woman complaining about how shitty these dudes are.
Pretty much.
The whole movie's just like boys, children, lads, silly pups. Like
that and Barry Allen trying to, I want friends.
Yeah, and Barry basically hamming it up. You know what I mean? Which is fine. And it was an enjoy. Here's the thing. I did enjoy it. I watched it going, this is fun, you know, but I couldn't give a square shit about Steppenwolf. I couldn't give 2 squats about that dude.
And also, with that, because I'm glad you brought that up, there are so many reports that there's so many director's cuts of Zack Snyder's that have Darkseid actually here, that have Superman in the black suit, that have more action and more storyline, and people want that out, but it's like they said that was a mess.
Yeah.
So if that's a mess, and then what you got was the rush, because Warner Brothers, not DC, Warner Brothers was like, we still need to hit this date because we need to get stuff out for Christmas tours.
Right.
That was it.
Yeah.
And I think if they'd have pushed it back, they'd have gave him more time. Granted, it's like, well, if you're DC, what do?
Yeah.
You don't do January, because nobody's going to the theater in January. They're recouping after all their Christmas money. February, you really can't beat what's about to come out in Black Panther.
Right.
After that, you got the Solo movie, Infinity War, all this other stuff. You really don't have a good time to put it out anyway. So it's like you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place if you're Warner Brothers.
Yeah, again, the major issue is they didn't do a strong enough job with the early movies they put out.
Well, they rushed.
And by not doing a good job with the early movies, even if you're going to come out and say, we're going to do this Justice League thing, you have to make sure that everything you do leading up to that is made with all of the right things in place to make sure that you get that lead up right. And to be honest, like when you look back on their track record, that Suicide Squad movie is going to be one of the biggest things that you'll point to and go, this is where the problem started.
This is where it all went downhill.
Because it was okay if you're making mediocre movies with extreme level comic stars, like the best of the best. Hey man, at least you're taking a shot with what you got out there. But if you for some reason decide to make a movie with 6 characters that like 14 people know about, like why are you setting yourself up for that failure?
Well, I don't even think. I think it is 6, because the one they were banking on.
I'm not impressed by that.
This is what they were banking on with Suicide Squad. And I know we're talking 2017, but this is what they were banking on with Suicide Squad. Will Smith in himself, you bank on Will Smith, but then you bank on the popularity of Harley Quinn.
Yeah, but could you imagine if Marvel, who'd been doing a couple of Iron Man movies, decided to come out and just do a new Warriors movie out of nowhere, and then we're just like, all right, cool, and then after that, we're going to give you Captain America.
Yeah, point well taken.
And then it was super fucking mediocre. Do you think Marvel would have ever had what they had?
First of all, I'm going to always bring up the one thing everybody, when I tell them about this one little Easter egg, in a sense, is Suicide Squad. They're like, I didn't fucking realize. At the very end, when Diablo turns to this big-ass fire creature, first of all, I don't know why anybody in continuity or the script supervisor didn't catch on to this shit. When Diablo turns to this big fucking fire creature and he gets drained and he goes back down to himself. Now, remember, when he's a regular dude with all the tattoos on his face and shit, he got on a high school Letterman jacket, a wife-beater t-shirt, and some jeans. Like, he just straight got out of prison, which he probably did. But he technically did anyway. But when he turns to this fire creature, he's burnt up and everything. He turns back down and dude got on a wife beater and it's clean.
Right.
Who the fuck was like, ain't nobody gonna pay attention to this shit. We see this nigga's shirt.
Now, the one thing that Marvel always gets right with the Hulk is when he turns back into Bruce Banner, this nigga naked.
He's
butt-ass naked,
I mean,
okay?
that's the best way to say it. He's butt-ass naked.
And so, it's the small things like that where they just don't take care of. To me, it seems like they don't really give a shit about what the actual people, what the fans are looking to see, which is we want to see a good we talk about this all the time. Every time you get accused of hating on DC,
you want a good movie.
I want to see a good universe happen.
Yes.
I want the good shit to happen. It's just like when Universal started with that Mummy shit. It was like, what would have been great is if it would have been a good movie. And then they would have set up some dope shit because what would have been really dope is to see all those motherfuckers on screen together. Frankenstein and like that shit would be crazy, dude. If they had a dope ass movie right now and it was Dracula and Frankenstein, the Wolfman and fucking all on screen together.
But they were so busy doing DC
rushing their shit,
so
not paying attention to quality.
So let's go forward. Number 6 is Justice League.
Of the year. Justice League.
Justice League
on that.
We're going to agree on that.
What is your 5th best movie of the year? This is a very difficult thing because these are all good movies.
Are you ready for this one?
I want to hear your 5th best movie of the year.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
We are in agreement. We agree. Agreement. I want to say agreements to be silly, but then I fucked it up.
It's agree. Yeah.
We are in agreement on that. Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It's very tightly contested. Tell me why Guardians of the Galaxy is number 5.
I loved Guardians 1. I thought you couldn't go wrong with 2.
What a sweetheart of a fucking movie.
You couldn't go wrong with 2. You about to get the introduction to Ego the Living Planet with Kurt Russell playing the character. You finna see Kurt Russell and Chris Pratt interact together.
Right.
This shit's gonna be great.
Right.
Okay. You're gonna do some more shit with the Ravagers. Yondu's finna get this fin. We don't know how this is gonna happen.
Yep.
Then you're gonna get the original Guardians.
You got Sylvester Stallone, the motherfucker. There's a whole bunch of shit popping up. You get young baby Groot, so you're appealing to the kids.
Right. The problem became you get the Sovereigns.
Mm-hmm.
You get the
Sovereigns, Mantis, a whole bunch of cool characters.
There was too much over the top trying with the humor.
Yeah.
First of all, when they did the 100 jumps,
felt less natural.
Felt less natural. It was like it was all forced. Then now all of a sudden you want to do a lot of character development exposition because now you got to do this long drawn out shit with Ego and Peter.
Yeah,
we did this extra long thing with Nebula and
the Mantis and Drax shit. I mean, everybody had to get their fucking 5 minutes to talk about their fucking life and cry together.
Rocket and Yondu.
Oh my god, everybody was stuck in a fucking thing somewhere where they had to be like, let's sit down, just the two of us.
Let's just understand.
Always 2 people? Is it only 2 people that are ever hanging out together?
You got Gamora and Nebula. I get it. They wanted to have that moment because we didn't get to see the sisters directly.
Right.
I didn't want to fight. I just wanted a sister.
Now I will say this: much better development of what eventually ends up being the villain in this, which is Ego.
And the way they build this,
because you build him up where you're like, all right, here's this wild character. He's out there. He's not he doesn't seem like a bad guy. You sense he's been around a little bit. Maybe there's something going on. But even with that, it's more like this is what this thing is made to do.
Well, with Ronan from Guardians 1, Ronan was only meant to help further push Thanos and the Infinity Stone.
Yeah,
that was it.
He was an extremely useless character.
He was extremely fucking useless.
Yeah.
But I mean, the colors looked beautiful.
Very pretty colors.
I love the soundtrack again, of course.
Yep.
I just didn't like the force of everything. They were forcing the comedy consistently.
Yeah, it was a lot less natural than the first one. The first one was a lot more of a natural set of comedy. But like I said, this seemed like they were working really hard to work inside of a formula that they were trying to push. And while that's fine, it felt like it underwhelmed. It definitely seemed like the first time I watched it where I was like, this movie's gone on for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's never good in a movie that's supposed to be an outer space action movie. I should never in an outer space action movie think,
it's still going?
God damn, these motherfuckers are just chilling on this planet.
Because there was so much happening. Like in Guardians 1, everything was the same plot. Everything converged to the same plot. In Guardians 2, there were 7 different plots.
Yeah. It was a very it seemed like they were just piecing together everybody's parts to make sure they can get everybody.
Which I kind of wish, I understand because he didn't do much of it in Guardians 1.
Right.
I kind of wish he would have took the time and did that. But again, I like the movie, but when we're ranking these movies from best to worst,
it's okay to let somebody's story just kind of be out there too, though. There's this whole thing where like, we've got 3 movies that we've got because the movie franchises are all stuck on this idea of trilogies, and so there's this thing where like they have to get everybody's story out so you can fall in love with them and buy that merch and get it. You know what I mean? It's like, how many times have I seen Mary Poppins y'all fucking shirts and people? It's like, okay, I'm glad I got some of Yondu's story. That's great and all, but like, how about you spin Yondu off into a solo movie and you can tell his fucking story there?
Yondu's dead.
I know, but like, you know what I mean? You could do a prequel movie with Yondu, but like, you could have. What I'm saying is, you could have limited the amount of exposition you did for all these characters, and then the hunger to see a movie with those characters would be greater. I don't need to see a Yondu movie now. I got all the fucking Yondu I need. You know what I mean?
The moment we found out, he's fully Kree, because we knew he was blue for a reason.
Right.
The whole Taserface, I was like, we're going to keep doing this.
Yeah, it was just an overwrought amount of attempts at being humorous and too much, like I said, they delved too much into those characters. You could have created a hunger for me.
Yeah.
But I'm good on those characters. If I learn nothing else about Mantis, I'm okay with it.
I don't need to know. Okay, shit. So that's our, basically, there's no other reason to keep dragging it. So that's our number 5.
Also a very entertaining movie.
A very fun movie. It is currently on Netflix.
And when I saw it, it was the best one I'd seen, I think, of the year at that point.
At that point.
Yeah.
Till other things came out. So that's our number 5.
That's pretty close. It was a tight race at that point.
What is your number 4? Because I think here's where the split's about to come.
My number 4 movie of the year is Thor Ragnarok. That's my number 4 movie of the year.
Are you okay? See, now I think I'm about ready to fight this mod. My number 4, because it was so difficult to do this, my number 4 was Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Ooh. That was a very tough decision for me. I will admit to potentially succumbing to the bias of the fact that I'm a much bigger fan of
Spider-Man than anything else
than I am of almost anything. It's usually for me it's like Batman, Spider-Man are 1 and 2 or 1A and 1B for me, and then everybody else. But I liked Thor Ragnarok a lot.
Okay.
Again, there are some times where I felt like the humor was kind of misplaced. There were a couple times where I thought the humor was just a little bit off. There's so much that, I mean, it's got the Hulk in it. The Hulk is obviously one of my favorite characters also.
Yes.
The Hulk is a character who, although, like, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite characters, it's the one I feel is most representative of how I feel about the world. Most of the time, I'm constantly trying to control myself from erupting and turning into a giant monster on people.
Makes sense.
Seems about right for me. But, it fell just a little bit short of being that full-on perfect movie. I think I had some issues with the way that they kind of treated a couple of the characters in the movie. I would have liked the kind of dismissing of Thor's hammer and kind of there were a couple of things where they just left me short, but it was a very tight call between that and Spider-Man.
For me, here's why it was hard, because of everything else. Spider-Man: Homecoming was it was a fun movie. I had a blast with it. It was great to see this Spider-Man now be included into the MCU.
Right.
I love the whole Marissa Tomei being the hot Aunt May. I love him having his friend. The one problem I did have is how the big climax to the third act happened. How Michael Keaton's character finds out who Peter Parker is. And then instead of where the battle ends up where it should have been, they just cheaped it out and did a battle on the beach with the Vulture and Spider-Man.
Yeah, I actually kind of... that's one of the things I found to be endearing about that movie, is because this movie was about a...
No. I'm saying for the final fight, that fight and the way they built this up, that should have happened at the homecoming dance. The whole theme of this movie is homecoming.
Sure.
You built all this up, And the way Liz should have found out that Peter was Spider-Man.
Sure.
Liz should have found out, and found out her daddy was the Vulture at the same time.
I guess. I think there's also a couple things being played on that motif of that plane trying to leave with important things and him bringing that back to home. And him kind of it's more than just the dance. It is Peter coming back to being
I get being
a New York kid after being with the Avengers
because
we never
had a Spider-Man movie in all these Spider-Man movies about a kid.
Right. Well, not just that, but about a kid who's already worked with a bigger team.
Who's just a kid.
Yeah, but also not about somebody who's already worked with a bigger team. This homecoming means he's coming back to being this regular person after being with he's already played with the big boys now.
Yeah,
he's played with the big boys. And so the homecoming for him is, how do you go back to being just this kid or just this person after you've played with the big boys? I think it's a similar thing you're going to probably find with Paul Rudd when they show his character the next time. That should be a thing. I mean, if you're Scott Lang, you were just, you learned how to become bigger and smaller. You fought this Yellow Jacket dude, and now all of a sudden you're fucking with Captain America. What the fuck? So I'm sure there's got to be a part of him also who has that similar thing.
How high do you think he was? How high do you think Scott Lang? Like after he broke out, he was like, "Hey man, I need to make a stop." Where?
Oh yeah,
my weed.
Oh yeah. They're in California, right?
Okay, so that's
so yeah. Thor for me was number 4.
Thor is higher on my list. I'll tell you where, but
Thor was 4.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man was 3 for me. I can tell you that because Spider-Man was your number 4 movie.
Yes.
And so I'll share what I did and didn't like about Spider-Man so we can cover that since we're here.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about your number 4 movie.
Right. My number 4 that is my number 4.
Oh, your number 4 is Spider-Man. Okay, then we'll get to your number 3. Okay.
Right. That's my number 4.
Number 3 for me was Spider-Man.
Okay.
And here's the issues I had with Spider-Man have mostly been resolved now. And by that I mean the trailer for Avengers Infinity War resolved. The only
thing you had was a spider sense.
Yeah,
I remember that.
The spider sense was a big issue for me in that movie, and it was the only thing that kept me from liking the movie more. And I said openly then, if they show it as a thing where it's developed for him, it's a newer thing for him that now he's recognizing what it is or something, then I'm in. And now it's there, so I'm like, all right, I gotta give it its due. I think it helped. Although they're trying to keep this Spider-Man from being too much of a Iron Man copycat.
Yeah,
they are going to be getting rid of Iron Man. So you do need somebody.
Just in case you didn't know, spoiler alert: Tony Stark does die in Infinity War.
Yeah, I'm not sad with the idea of Peter Parker, this guy who's already kind of a tech whiz, being a guy who has shit in his suit. It's now. This is 1982. When you couldn't make a suit like that anymore, okay? So I'm comfortable with that. And I do like the idea of the flipping back and forth between the two suits. I like that this movie was grounded. The thing where Michael Keaton does discover who he is, I thought was one of the greatest things. That bit of dialogue, that back and forth that goes on in the car, where he's finally recognizing who they're both recognizing who they're talking to in that moment and seeing exactly where they're going with it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, motherfuck, this is about to get wild. And then I do like that it did kind of end as simply as it did, where it wasn't a guy dying. I like that Michael Keaton had a real reason. He was a blue-collar guy just trying to make it for his family. Those things did it for me with that movie. So
my number 3?
Your number 3.
I'm going to make a lot of people mad.
Oh, I know where you're going with this already. I'm going to be so sad about this.
It's Logan.
Oh, your number 3 is Logan. That's not what I thought you were going to do. I'm surprised. Holy shit. Okay.
It's Logan.
Your number 3 is Logan.
My number 3 is Logan.
Okay. What did you like about Logan?
I love the culmination of the story.
Okay.
It was, when we took this story, we'd gone forward in time.
Yes.
We didn't play like, it's only been a year. We've gone years in time.
Yeah.
You took what was a regular action sci-fi type movie and turned it into a Western. You successfully spun it into a Western. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was a Western chase movie.
Yes, it was. And the best part of this entire movie is not even Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. It is honestly a tie between Patrick Stewart and Daphne Keane.
Yeah, Daphne Keane was amazing in this movie.
It's a tie between the two of them. So the story was great. The want to go to Eden. The inclusion of the X-Men comic that they made for that.
Right.
The fact that, now it's been real life what's happening. People are making us comic book characters about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was that. But then there were certain little parts where I was like, we don't need to bring in more baby mutants and not tell us where we're going with this. Shout out to little short fat mutant who was a little chunk. But it's like, it's certain part we don't need. We're doing New Mutants. You're doing New Mutants.
But the point is that there are continuing to be mutants that are there.
But they made this where they set this up in a sense to be, this is a next generation of X-Men, not a next generation of just mutants.
I'm okay with that. Why is that a problem?
Because I don't know
where you hate the X-Men films.
No.
But they've been bought. The Fox has been bought. They've been saved.
Regardless. It's just I don't know what you're going to do with New Mutants.
It doesn't matter.
For me, it does.
It doesn't matter right now. But see, here's the thing, though. They can close that loop somehow. They can figure out how to close. Let them figure out how to close. I know
they
can.
Loop. Yeah, they can completely do that. But so that's why Logan is my number 3.
Okay, Logan is your number 3.
What is your number 2?
My number 2 movie is Wonder Woman.
We are on the exact same page.
So Wonder Woman is your second favorite movie of the year.
Your number 1 is automatically Logan.
So my number 1 movie of the year is Logan. So here's why I like Logan. Then we'll go back and we'll talk about Wonder Woman as our number 2 movie because you just talked about Logan. So what I liked about Logan is, well, for one thing, on the business side of things, they'd made 2 mediocre to shitty Wolverine movies at that point, right? Like. The 2 previous movies were, the second was in ways better than the first, but they were both.
The first one was abysmal.
They were both like.
Yeah, y'all, I used the big word, abysmal.
They were both like real, like hanging on to the last threads of the X-Men: The Last Stand style movies, right?
Yes,
like they were very much to me. They seemed like it was like, oh, you're just making a version of X-Men: The Last Stand, but Wolverine focused. I thought Logan was a tremendously solid reimagining of a business concept in a franchise where they changed who this character. Like, not who he was, but changed what was at stake. They turned it into a very small story. This was not about somebody trying to take over the world.
Yeah, this wasn't a world
in some big domination type of thing. It didn't. Even though the child mutants ended up being involved later on, this wasn't a big story about a whole lot of mutant shit. Like it wasn't. It was just a. There's another movie that came out called Hell or High Water that Chris Pine was in.
I know.
It was a great Western bank robbery chase movie. And watching Logan reminded me so much of that movie. And I thought Hell or High Water may have been one of my favorite movies of the year when it came out. And Logan was so much of a similar style of just like you said, a Western, solid chase movie where these guys are on the run. Patrick Stewart is incredible in this movie.
He's amazing.
He's incredible. You forget that he's a guy who's just an able-bodied, walking around dude in real life because you see him in this movie and he
sells you as that.
You think maybe that dude is going to die at one point. I thought the idea of including X-24 was cool.
That was why he went
to 3. They played it really well. That I was worried when I first saw him that it wasn't going to be good, but the fact that it was this full berserker mode version of him, and that was what brought the end of Charles at some point, I thought was important. And so there was a lot of stuff that I really liked in that movie. There was very little that I thought Daphne Keane was amazing in there as well. I think they've set her up to maybe do some future version, or maybe she gets whatever they want to do with that. They have an actor they can really work with.
They've set it up already.
The bad guys still, I had a reason to be invested in what those guys were up to. Caliban was dope. I thought he was an interesting character. There's just a lot to like in the movie, and there wasn't much that I had a problem with. My main issue was I don't know how you take a movie that's set 9 years beyond what they're currently doing and somehow pull them back together.
Right.
Unless you wait. They're going to be in what, 1990s in the current X-Men years? So Phoenix. You got to go through like quite a bit of time to get to the 2029 era. How far forward are you going to jump? Right. So that's my concern. But
mine was y'all wasted Eric LaSalle and Elise Neal.
Well, you did get a brother in there, which shout out to
who you knew was going to die when you saw this nigga. You were like, oh, they going to kill these niggas.
And I like the inclusion of the kid mutants at the end. There's Daphne Keane's storyline is built around that, and really it's an introduction of her as a character. And I think her character's storyline would center a lot more about dealing with what that the outfall or the outpouring of what that is turns out to be in the future. So that's why it ended up being number 1 for me. Why was Wonder Woman number 2 for you?
It was arguably next to Logan, one of the movies that honestly touched me in an emotional way.
Yeah.
Logan, I did forget to say Logan was the movie that made every grown man.
Yeah.
Every grown man cried when they heard the word daddy.
For sure.
Well, you couldn't help it.
For sure.
Wonder Woman did that for me because I have a daughter.
Yeah.
And as you do as well.
Wonder Woman did it for me because I know women.
And I know.
I just know women, right?
But I use it on several.
I also have a daughter, and I get your reasoning.
Yeah, my daughter, because my daughter can see this. and now to watch little Diana on Themyscira molding what she sees in Antiope and everybody else.
And I say that not to put down what you're saying, but the fact that like there's a lot of men that don't have daughters,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
But they should also recognize that like the other half of the species is women that should also get lifted up.
And also, I love it too. This is another thing. Because of women and because of the way they treated this woman.
Right.
Wonder Woman was not the just big boobed, big hoop 40, 36, 24, 36 type chick that just all we're paying attention to is her frame.
Right.
They gave this woman morals, values, a code, an honor, dignity, poise, everything about her is on top of her strength.
And they weren't morals or values or ideas that were built in any version of a specific religion or it was really built. The only idea it was really built around was treating people right.
Yes.
Not letting evil win.
Nope.
And doing what you feel you should do
to make
on whatever level that is.
Whatever it is.
There is no judgment over who you decide you want to sleep with if you're
just
grown.
Do what you feel you should.
But
do.
as long as everybody is happy with what's going on, you should be able to do those things.
And I love that. I love the beauty of it. I love the story that was told.
Yeah.
I loved the story that was told up until the third act where Zack Snyder stepped in.
Zack Snyder was in control of Act 3.
You can tell it.
Yeah.
Because Patty Jenkins' movie had a beautiful flow.
Right.
From Diana as a youth to as a teenager to a young adult to all of a sudden here comes Chris Pine's character. Now all of a sudden
and then we gotta get this action going.
We get this action going because we got the action starting to go with them. We
gotta get the end action.
Now let's get it really rolling.
We gotta get to the big explosion.
We go to London and we go to No Man's Land, the big scene there. We we're like, okay, here's Dr. Poison. Here's who we think General Ludenberg. We think
which was great. I love that.
I loved it. We thought he was
swerve.
We thought he was Ares, but then it turns out it's been this dude working for like British intelligence the whole time.
Right.
But the fight looks so dark, and her whole thing in that fight was about love. At the end of the day, it wasn't just fighting for what she should be fighting for because of what her purpose, the reason she was created is to destroy that.
Yeah.
But I didn't like that it had to be this love thing.
Well, I struggle with my struggle with it was for sure dealing with that third act as well. But again, it's just an issue where there's not enough backstory as to why I should have a problem with Ares. I was definitely into the idea of the swerve that they used and how they got to that point, but the way that they got to explaining who Ares was just wasn't enough to draw me in to make it my favorite. Now, here's the thing. That and Logan could have, I sat there looking at that for a long time trying to figure out where I wanted to place those two movies, right? There were some elements of Wonder Woman that weren't perfect. Some of the stereotyping of the sidekick characters I thought was a little weak. Now I will say this: it's one of the things that people don't recognize when they're watching movies, and one of the things that Wonder Woman does extremely well. And I'll point out the difference between why it was great in Wonder Woman and where it fails in Justice League, because they really fail at using her character in Justice League.
Oh, they completely fail.
And one of the issues that you'll see if you watch movies, if you don't read about movies but you're a fan kind of, and you want to know, there's a thing called the male gaze, okay? And the male gaze is something that you can see very easily when you watch movies that are directed by men when they show women's frames in movies. And if you watch Justice League, there is an overabundance of shots of Gal Gadot's butt.
Yes, it is.
Just every angle is her from behind.
Her from behind.
It's her walking down the street, her from behind, her landing somewhere from behind, her doing something else. It's always her from behind, right? If you watch Wonder Woman, you see that isn't the case.
Not at all.
You see her. And here, listen. She's wearing a small corseted thing and a little skirt and all that, but the angles are not like that.
They aren't focusing in on that.
None of the characters are treated that way in the movie, by the way.
No.
And so I think the way that this movie is shot is a lot more beautiful than what you'll find in other movies where the male gaze kind of just keeps trying to direct you back to that one thing. And no, you're wrong. It's a great butt. I'm not going to say it's not a great butt, but it should be in the flow of where it makes sense in a movie, not just here's where we're going to get a tight ass shot because we think dudes are going to like an ass shot.
I need to see her ass like
that
in
doesn't
Justice
make the
League.
movie good.
Right, because in Justice League, here's her ass while she's walking up to talk to Cyborg. Why is that?
It's like, that doesn't make your movie good.
That doesn't make your movie better.
Like, if you can't keep my attention in a movie because the dialogue that you're about to have or because what's happening isn't doing it, showing me a picture of somebody's butt walking should not be the move that you go to, but it is. This movie, Wonder Woman, didn't do that, and I think they handled that extremely well. I also think they handled her feminism in a way that wasn't so overt. right? Like,
yeah, because for her, feminism was all that she knew.
And they
because
touched on it.
Right, because there was no, she never knew of a man at all.
Right.
So in a sense, you could say her feminism was just her life.
Right.
That was all she knew about, was being feminine.
The same way that there are men that come from countries that are extremely patriarchal that get into another country that has more feminist ideals. And they're like, wait, you can't just beat women that drive?
You can't just slap your woman in the
Wait
mouth.
a minute, what?
No, I know, but I think the difference in those are there are women around.
Correct.
That's
Absolutely.
there are no men around on Themyscira until Steve Trevor comes.
Right.
She doesn't know of a man.
But there's the decisions that are made that she's allowed to make are there's no major grandstanding dialogue
absolutely.
where they go, you're right, we have been doing that. Let's just let her do it. She's obviously the one who knows better. Like,
let her go.
After a very quick example that she knew what she was doing, there was never a time where her ability to really like do what she wanted to do was ever really questioned again.
Well, when he was in the alley and about to get mugged, and all of a sudden she just blocked the bullet. He was like, "Well, you know what?
Well, whenever we need some help, you gonna be who we call.
You go in, be the hero.
I'm just gonna hide the sword, and in the meantime,
you gonna take this sword on back to the." You know what I'm saying? I'm going to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because you got her. Now you got my secretary, who you didn't just told the secretary she don't need to be a secretary. So I'm going to take your sword. You can put that up for you for safekeeping.
But I do agree that the third act kind of failed me a little bit. And that's where it struggled for me. And that's where, like I said, extremely tight. I could have, tomorrow I may get up and decide that I really thought that Wonder Woman was a better movie, but that's how it's been for me since these two movies came out. So your number one movie.
You already know what it is.
I do know what it is.
Thor Ragnarok.
Thor Ragnarok is your number one movie.
I will tell you why.
Tell me why Thor is your number one movie.
Because we completely went a different direction from the other two solo films that we've had. Mm-hmm. We allowed Chris Hemsworth to do what Chris Hemsworth has been wanting to do. He has been wanting Thor to be more lighthearted, fun. He only gets a chance to do that in Avengers films.
Right.
He got the opportunity to do this.
Yeah.
Tessa Thompson is amazing. There's no other real words you can describe from the way she played Valkyrie was amazing. She played a Han Solo-esque character, but kept it beautiful. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Kept it strong. Jeff Goldblum is Jeff Goldblum. Right. You know what I'm saying? I believe he owns that robe. Okay? I believe he owns that robe. I thought I heard something. I'm hearing a little bit of a hum.
There's a plane.
Oh, that's what it was. A plane. Yeah.
That's right.
This is.
We are close to an airport.
So Jeff Goldblum is dope. Let me not forget Taika Waititi as Korg.
Right.
Because, again, he's a comedian, so what he does to take those elements, and a lot of people were mad. They were like, oh, this ain't the same Korg. You know, they were upset at the character. They was like, oh, there were some people I know because this wasn't the same Korg from Planet Hulk.
Man, you are fucking.
There were some people I talked to.
Here's the thing. Okay, I'm a fan and I'm a nerd and I know, and there's a lot of shit I know, but come on, man.
I know, right?
How much time do you have in your life? It's one. I get you being upset. I could even see if you're upset about how they maybe change, like something about, I don't know, about Valkyrie's character. Like I get that. But God, you gonna be mad about Korg, nigga?
niggas want to be picky, G. So then
what is the ease in your life?
The Hulk. Mark Ruffalo's character as the Hulk in this was so much better than Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner.
Yeah,
you know, because
the Hulk character was really, really good in this.
As Banner, we of course you get those certain moments, but as the Hulk, him acting very childlike because now he's been the Hulk 2 years.
Right.
I don't want change.
Yeah.
You know, Hulk like raging fire, Thor like smoldering fire. You know, him in the interaction with Valkyrie. Hey, angry lady. Things like that. I loved all that.
It was really good.
I love the way the story built. Now, the bad guy in itself is like, okay, and Cate Blanchett is amazing.
Cate Blanchett is really good. I wish they would have explored Valkyrie a little bit more as far as, because she was originally a queer character that they never really played out to that possibility.
They only showed you in the clip.
Yeah, there was only a hint of it, so they never really got that far with it, which I thought that was a shortfall for them. Mm-hmm. I had an issue with the white guy with a gun as a savior at one point.
Yeah,
that part for me.
Carl Urban's character was
and I love Carl Urban. I think we've spoken before about how I think Carl Urban will go down as one of the better unsung character actors out there. I really am a big Carl Urban fan. I just thought somebody, and I don't know if that was Taika Waititi like jokingly feeding something to American audiences, and if that's the case, hey man, I get what you were doing. I understand now after everybody explaining to me that's what you were doing, but to me watching the movie, I was just like, So this dude with 2 guns is just gonna go out in a blaze of glory. Like, okay.
Surtur was like, all right, this was just a small little thing to have, just a small little thing to use to just keep hella busy while they're doing that. Also, you finally saw something better to do with Idris Elba's Heimdall.
Yeah.
Taika Waititi sat around and told everybody, you have Idris Elba, and all he does is occasionally raise the sword up.
Yeah.
You have Idris Elba.
Yeah.
You gotta keep just saying, you have Idris Elba. You know how many people want this man in the
back and
movie?
be like, did Kenneth Branagh not like Idris Elba?
What's like, what the hell?
I mean, I did think it was a good fresh start for Thor. Like I said, my problems were I think some of the comedy was kind of forced in there.
Now, I will
that scene when they're on the ship at the end and like they're watching the fucking planet that they've been living on explode and they're cracking jokes about it. Like Korg is cracking jokes about it. It's like, how do you not just murder that motherfucker right in everybody's face?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, that Asgard, my home fucking planet is just exploding and you're cracking jokes. Go fuck yourself, rock guy. Let's see if them rocks can breathe in space.
You sound really hostile about that.
I was very upset about that part.
So that was my number 1. So Thor Ragnarok, man. So we basically have covered all 6 movies.
Those were the 6 movies that were...
If you could see one movie out of the 6 over again, which one would it be and why? I mean, because you have the option to watch them all currently, but if you can just sit down now and just watch one more again, which one is it and why?
I would probably watch Spider-Man: Homecoming again.
I literally was just going to say I would watch just because I know I've missed some things.
Well, here's the thing. Logan is an incredibly sad movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sad throughout. The whole movie is just this, and I'm in a pretty good mood right now. I'm being honest. You know what I mean? Like, I feel pretty good. I'm not trying to fuck up my feelings with having emotions in the middle of a day. So there'd have to be a Logan hilarious for me. And I do like Wonder Woman, but the third act is, again, something I don't want to be kind of let down through right now. I want to see something it's dark. It's also dark, right? It's a grim war movie.
Yes, it is.
And I'm not, again, I don't want to start feeling all sad about war movies where there's whole villages you got to save and shit. I want to see something that's bright, that has something that's kind of fun and airy and light. And for me, that's what Spider-Man was. It was a fun movie throughout. Obviously, you knew Spider-Man was going to survive the shit, so it wasn't. But I also like the idea, again, one of my big things I liked about that movie is that you didn't have to kill Michael Keaton's character in the end.
Yeah,
he's a guy that still exists and could be around for maybe a team up with
I want to see,
characters.
well, for me, it would be Spider-Man Homecoming, of course. And the reason being is because I know this is an MCU film.
Yes.
So there are Easter eggs all through this that there are names dropped that we don't pay attention to. There's little small hidden gems to different things. I would like to know what I missed because now I got to listen to Jennifer Connelly do the voice of his suit again and see if she has certain things on his display that I didn't know. Things like that. So Spider-Man Homecoming will be the movie I watch again. Now listen, that has been our best and worst movies of 2017. Now, we know some of you all will agree, some of you all won't.
We'd love to know what you think,
We want to know
what are your list?
What is your list? Make sure you hit us up on our Facebook page, the Trusty Sidekick Podcast. Hit us up on Twitter, @SidekickTrusty. Hit us on Instagram, Trusty Sidekick Pod. Email us, TrustySidekickPod@gmail.com. Email us. Also, go check out our Patreon, man. Go to our Patreon. You can find the link on our website. Here's some of the goodies that you can get. For a $5 donation, we'll give you our Trusty Sidekick shout out. So we'll shout you out here on the podcast. $10 donation, we shout you out and tag you on social media. $20 shout out, $20 donation, you get to Skype with either one of the sidekicks. $30, I forgot, it was $30, $40 one. We'll do that. We'll put you in and bring you in for a conversation and put you into an episode. And for $50 and above, if you haven't seen some of my drawings, you will get an original drawing by yours truly, Jay Washington.
Boom.
So go ahead and donate to the Patreon. It helps to build this show. It helps us to go further, go to more conventions, go to different places, bring more guests in.
Also create better things we can give away for part of the Patreon. Well, the things we can do for our audience, if they help support us with just a little bit, hopefully will become a massive return for you.
Trusty Sidekick t-shirts, Trusty Sidekick wristbands, different merchandise of the sort. So we want to be able to give that to you. But to do all that, we have things we're doing on our own. We'd like a little help from you guys. So if you can do that, it'd be very much appreciated. So, are we done?
We're done.
With that being said, we wrapped up our best and worst comic book movies of 2017 here on the Trusty Sidekick podcast on Laugh Ready Podcast Network with me, your resident supervillain, Mr. J. Washington.
And me, your resident superhero, Bobby Hill.
Coming up next, our best and worst comic book TV shows in 2017.
That's going to be a long one.
That's going to be a long one because it's a lot of shows, and we'll tell you about it in the beginning. And then you're going to get our predictions for 2018 for movies and new shows that will be debuting. So we will holler at you guys next week when you get the best and worst comic book TV shows.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. 2017. Happy New Year. We will holler at y'all later. Take care. Peace.
That's what's up.
Okay.
Laugh Factory Network.